जय जय श्री राधे जी. Sub Vaishnav ko Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Radhe. Day 103. Part 2. Prasanga number 2 of Kumbhan Dasji's Varta, which is Varta 83 from the 84. Every morning, Kumbhan Das would walk from Jamunawati to Sri Govardhan to have the holy sight of the Lord, and he would sing songs for every part of the daily services. Sri Govardhan Naji was so pleased with Kumbhan Das that he began to grant him his direct experience, and they used to play and chat together. One time, one of the Muslim rulers of very bad conduct suffered some losses and decided to take it out on the local population by raiding all the villages and stealing from them. He came from the west. His camp was 10 miles from Sri Giriraji. Saru Pandey, Manik Chand Pandey, Ram Das and Kumbhan Das discussed the situation. This barbarian is a very bad man. He opposes all our religious practices. What should we do? They were very close devotees of Srinathji and could talk to the Lord. They went into the temple and asked him what they should do. That barbarian is destroying everything nearby. Please tell us what we should do. Sri Govardhan Naji replied that they should take him to Tontkigane, a nearby thicket in the forest. The 4 Vaishnavas asked him how he would travel there, and he said he would ride on the buffalo that was in Saru Pandey's house. They brought the buffalo to him, and the Lord sat upon it, Bhav Prakash. The buffalo was a divine soul. In the eternal Leela, it was the lady gardener in Sri Vrishabhanu's house. She would prepare flower garlands and bring them to Sri Vrishabhanu every morning. Her name was Vrinda. One day, Sri Swaminiji came into the garden. Vrinda was busy feeding her daughter and failed to greet or bow to Sri Swaminiji. Sri Swaminiji said nothing at that time, but then afterwards she told Vrinda, "Go to Nandaraji's home and tell Sri Thakurji that I am here, and it is important that he come." Vrinda replied, "I am just making these flower garlands to send to Sri Vrishabhanuji, so I cannot go right now." Sri Swaminiji spoke, "When I came here, you did not greet me, and now you are refusing to do one simple little task. You cannot stay in this garden now. You will fall down and take birth as a buffalo." In this way, she cursed that gardener. She then fell at Sri Swaminiji's feet and begged her and pleaded, "Please make it so that I might one day return here." Sri Swaminiji predicted, "When Sri Thakurji rides upon you to go to the thick forest, then only will you be redeemed. When you exit from the buffalo body, you will reincarnate as a gardener here again." This is how that gardener lady came to be Sadhu Pandey's buffalo. Part 2 continued. Riding on the buffalo, Srinathji started the journey to Tontkigane. Ramdas held him from one side and Sadhu Pandey from the other. Kumbhan Das and Manik Chand held him in the middle. There were so many thorns on the path and their clothes got ripped. It was a hard road, but there was a forest bower and a river in the middle of that thicket. As they approached it, Kumbhan Das and Manik Chand forged the path and cleared it of thorns the best they could. In the centre of Tontkigane, there is a platform under a tree next to a small lake. There is also a circular area designated as a location for the divine dance. When they reached that place, Ramdas and Kumbhan Das asked the Lord where he would like to stay. He said he would like to sit under the tree on the platform. They took the padded blanket that had been under Srinathji on top of the buffalo and spread it out on that platform and asked Srinathji there, and brought Srinathji there. Srinathji asked Ramdas to present him with something to eat, and having offered it to go and stand at a distance. Ramdas and Kumbhan Das thought that the Lord must have come here to fulfill some devotee's longings. Ramdas made a small offering. Srinathji instructed him to offer everything he had. Ramdas hastily offered the 2 kilos of sweet pudding that he had brought. Afterwards, Ramdas asked Sri Govardhan Naji what he would be able to offer him later on when all the pudding had been offered. Srinathji replied that they were not going to be staying there, that he had done what he had come here to do. Kumbhan Das, together with Sadhu Pandey, Manik Chand Pandey and Ramdas, all went to sit in the shadow of a tree. Meanwhile, Sri Swaminiji had come to that Nikunja and made some preparations with her own hands, which she then took to Srinathji. After they had eaten together, he thought, "Sri Swaminiji has had to make considerable effort to bring this to me." So he asked Kumbhan Das, "Please sing something nice to relax us. I'm going to eat some more. Now please start to sing." Kumbhan Das thought that the Lord might like to hear some amusing lines. Considering this and the fact that all 4 of them were hungry and had been pierced by the thorns on the road, he sang this poem. Pada Rag Sarang. "O Lord, you love this thicket of thorns. Small and big thorns have stuck into us and our bodies and clothes are torn. What kind of a joke is this when a lion fears a jackal?" Kumbhan Das now sings, "You are the upholder of the Sri Giriraj mountain, but these invaders are nothing more than a brood of a low-born widow." Part 2 continued. Both Srinathji and Sri Swaminiji enjoyed this poem, as did the other Vaishnavas there. When they offered them a flower garland, Kumbhan Das sang another one. Saki addresses Sri Swaminiji, Rag Malkos. The lovely Sham, your dark enchanting lord, is sitting amongst a tree of lotus flowers in the shade of a kadamba tree. All the trees there are full of flowers, the bees are buzzing and the parrots and cuckoos are warbling. Hearing the words of her messenger, Sri Swaminiji became excited in her body and heart. Kumbhan Das now sings, the young lady now proceeds to meet Sri Krishna, the mountain holder and the supreme connoisseur of loving mood. Part 2 continued. Srinathji enjoyed this poem a lot. Sri Swaminiji then asked the Lord how he had come there. He told her that he had come by sitting on the buffalo from Sadhu Pandey's house. Hearing this, Sri Swaminiji looked at the buffalo and gracefully said, this buffalo used to be the gardener in my home. She became a buffalo due to insulting behaviour towards me. However, today this buffalo has served you well, and she so is now suitably redeemed. After saying this, she and her lord enjoyed many games within that Tonkigani. After that, she went back to Varsana. That place was full of thorns, so how did Sri Swaminiji manage to get there? The answer is that all the trees in Vraja are divine forms. Wherever and whatever Sri Krishna desires, fruits, flowers, etc. will appear amongst the vines, trees and creepers of Vraj. Worldly people will see a place covered with thorns. These Nikunjas are the places where Sri Krishna and all the gopis play. The gopas and devotees on the path of lawful limitations are held back by the thorns, or they just see a thicket forest. The Vraja devotees are always ready to serve their beloved. Of this there is no doubt. Sri Govindhara came to Tonkigani on a buffalo accompanied by 4 Vaishnavas. They met lots of Brajvasis, but none of them even noticed the Lord. They just saw 4 people leading a buffalo. And if there were no thorns, then all of the Brajvasis would have flocked there. Sri Thakurji's Leelas are played solely to give joy to his devotees, but to others he seemed to be running off in fear. He did not want the attendant devotees to regard him as the glorious Lord, otherwise they would not worship him in the mode of love. Fear is only part of the mood of sweetness. The great Lord need never be fearful. In this way, when loving devotees see these exchanges, they are filled with bliss, their eyes are full of insight and divinity, and thus they experience the nectar of the Lord's play. When Sri Swaminiji set off for Varsana, Sri Govardhanathji called those 4 Vaishnavas to his side. Bhav Prakash. A question might arise here as to why, when these 4 were his closest devotees who always experienced his Leelas, did he send them a distance away when Sri Swaminiji was with him? Although those accomplished devotees could witness the play as Sakis, still Sri Swaminiji wished to feed the Lord joyfully with her own hands, and she would have been embarrassed and hesitant had they been right there. Therefore, when the couple are enjoying themselves together in the forest bower, then the Sakis can peep at them from the cover of the shrubs and vines as if through a latticed window. Thus the 4 had been sitting there, and now he called them back to his side. When the 4 Vaishnavas came to him, he asked them if the bad situation was over yet. Sadhu Pandey left the thicket and straightway got the news that the barbarian army had retreated from Sri Govardhan. Sadhu Pandey told the Lord that the barbarian army had retreated. He told them to take him back to his temple on top of Sri Giriraji. The 4 Vaishnavas sat him back on the buffalo and took him safely back to Sri Giriraji. When the buffalo came down from the mountain, it left its body and re-entered the Lord's Leela. All the Brajvasis were overjoyed to have the holy sight of Sri Govardhanathji again. They exclaimed, "Most merciful is our Dev Daman. He saves us from these terrible troubles in a single second, as if nothing at all had happened." Kumbhan Das then sang these padas before Srinathji. Rag Sri Rag. Long live and all glories to Sri Krishna, the upholder of the Sri Giriraj mountain. He dispersed the torrential rains, saved the whole of the cowherd clan, and shattered Indra's pride. Translator's note. In this pada, Sri Giriraji is referred to as Sri Hari Das Varya, the best servant of Sri Hari. This title comes from Srimad Bhagavat 10.21.18, the Venu Gitam, where it is stated that Sri Giriraji serves the Lord in 4 main ways with water to drink, grass for the cows to graze, caves for shelter, and fruit and bulbs and wood and roots for food. Long live our beloved Lord, who dons lightning bright yellow garments, and whose tender body is dark hue like a rain-filled cloud. His hands hold his flute to his lips. The flute's lovely melody naturally captivates the hearts of the Vraja damsels. All glory to this forest of Tulsi, where your lotus feet wander, and to which the whole world bows. The poet Kumbhan Das now sings, "I come humbly to take refuge in you, son of the Gop Nanda, who plays on the banks of the Sri Yamunaji river." Shri Krishna Pada Rag Shri Rag. Shri Krishna has made the rasa dance circle on the banks of Shri Yamunaji, the daughter of the sun, and he holds the flute to his lips and begins to play his sweet notes. He plays all those gopas gathered together there in many different styles of dance. Seeing this, the Lord of Love's pride is shattered. On his dark body shines his soft silk and yellow cloth, and the light from his toenails alone disperses the darkness of the whole world. His jewellery is fascinating, his eyebrows are arched like a bow, his eyes flutter and his glances are like Cupid's arrows. His anklets and the bells on his belt jingle sweetly, his voice rumbles like a thundercloud. Says Kumbhan Das, my lord, the upholder of the Sri Giriraj mountain, has an extraordinary form, incomparable from head to toe. Part 2 continued. Kumbhan Das sang many such poems to his lord, and the lord thus became very pleased with him. Kumbhan Das's poems became very well known. Here concludes Prasanga Do, the second part of the Varta of Kumbhan Das Ji, which is Varta 83. Shri Vallabhadisha ki jai ho, Aaj ke Anand ki jai ho. Jai Shri Krishna, Radhe Radhe Ji, Jai Shri Radhe.